You know you fucked up, right? You know you're going to get it like your boy. Fucking fix this shit right now, bitch!
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Spill the Real, the home of unfiltered conversations in real-world truth, right here on SUGARWATERRADIO.com. Now listen, let's be very clear before we even start. This show is not for the weak. This episode is not for people who just want background noise or, something light to pass the time. Today's conversation goes all the way in. We're talking about Epstein files explode worldwide, what's really going down in 2026. And if you've got a weak stomach, if you need air, if this kind of truth makes you uncomfortable, pause it right now, go get some air, breathe, and come back when you're ready. Because today we are breaking this down piece by piece. Also, this is not a kid's conversation. Make sure you're not around children. Put the headphones on. This one's for grown folks who want real answers. I'm Dana Lucen.
And I'm Mark Miller.
And today we're pulling the curtain back on power, corruption, media silence, and why the world is finally waking up. If you're watching or listening right now and you rock with this kind of real conversation, do us a favor. Follow the podcast. Share this episode. Send it to somebody who needs to hear it. Because the truth only moves when people move it. And if you want to help keep the lights on and support independent media that doesn't fold under pressure, you can support Sugar Water Radio directly. CASHAPP Sugar Water Radio. Every dollar helps keep this platform alive. Big shout out to the entire SWR team, everybody behind the scenes making this happen, and everyone tuned in right now from wherever you're listening around the world. And one more thing, if you're an artist, creator, DJ, or just somebody who cares about culture, make sure you join the Hip Hop Hub Network. This is about building, connecting, and changing the game together, not waiting for permission. All right, you've been warned. Let's spill the real.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's just ground ourselves here for a minute. It's Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. And for years, literally years, we have all been hearing about the list.
The list.
Right. The client list. The flight logs. It became this mythical thing. We've heard promises, we've heard deflections, we've seen, a million memes about it. But this week, the dam didn't just crack, it actually broke.
It absolutely exploded. And it's all because of this thing called the Epstein Files Transparency Act.
Right. And this act finally forced the Department of Justice's hand.
And they did not do it willingly. That's, I think, the first thing people really need to get their heads around.
No, of course.
This wasn't the government just waking up one morning and deciding, hey, you know what? It's time to be honest with the American people.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
Not at all. This was a clawback. It was legislative force, real pressure, applied directly to the DOJ to finally release what they've been sitting on for years. We're talking over 3.5 million pages of documents.
3.5 million. I mean, just say that number out loud. It's staggering. How does anybody even begin to process that amount of information?
Well, that's the strategy, right? No, you can't process it all at once. The idea is you dump a haystack on the public and you hope they never find the needles.
A needle in a 3 million page haystack.
Exactly. But here's the thing that's different about 2026. We're not in 2016 anymore. We have AI tools. We have crowdsourced research platforms. We have millions of just regular people with a search bar and a hunger for the truth.
And we're not just looking at a simple client list anymore, are we? That's the key difference.
Not even close.
Yeah.
We are looking at the raw data. The flight logs, yes, they're in there. But we're also seeing the internal emails. We're seeing surveillance logs from the properties. There are video files in this dump. There are images that have been locked away in a vault at the Southern District of New York for almost a decade. This is the source code of the operation.
And the rollout itself. I mean, can we talk about the absolute disaster of this release? Because on one hand, it feels like just sheer incompetence, but then there's a part of me that wonders if it was, malicious incompetence.
Oh, it was catastrophic. I mean, from a legal and ethical standpoint, It was a train wreck. The DOJ, in this massive dump, They accidentally, and I'm doing heavy ear quotes here for everyone listening.
I can see them.
They accidentally left victim names unredacted.
Oh, no.
Yeah. We are talking about survivors, women who have fought for anonymity for years, who have rebuilt their lives in the shadows, suddenly having their full names, in some cases their home addresses, just plastered onto a public government server.
That is just heartbreaking. I mean, it's a fundamental violation all over again.
It is. It's a re-traumatization.
Yeah.
And the chaos it caused. I mean, you have lawyers scrambling, filing emergency injunctions, demanding takedowns from the servers. But you and I both know how this works.
Once it's out, it's out.
Once a file hits the decentralized web, once it's on the torrent sites, it's gone. It's out there forever. The DOJ might have scrubbed their official site, but the raw, unredacted files are circulating. And here's the twisted part. While that is absolutely terrible for the victims, that chaos has also, I think, ripped the lid off things that the powers that be probably wanted to stay buried in all the confusion.
It's like a smokescreen that backfired on them. While all the mainstream news outlets are running around, frantically searching for a movie star's name to slap in a headline.
Right. Oh, look, this actor was on a plane once.
Exactly. While they're doing that, we're digging into the stuff that they're completely ignoring. Everybody is so focused on the past, on who flew where in 2005, but these files gave us something that points directly to the money, to the future of the operation. And it gave us a name that, to be honest, I hadn't really clocked until this week.
Karina Shuliak.
Karina Shuliak.
This is where the story, I think, really pivots. Everyone focuses on Ghislaine Maxwell. She's the villain we know. She's the face of the complicity, the one who got convicted.
She's the handler.
She's the handler, exactly.
Yeah.
But these new files, specifically the trust documents that were executed in 2019, they point to Karina Shuliak as maybe the central figure in Jeffrey Epstein's final hours. And more importantly, in his future planning.
Okay, let's unpack this, because Karina Shuliak sounds like a name straight out of a spy novel, but she's a very real person. Who is she?
She is a Belarusian dentist.
A dentist? You're kidding me.
A dentist. The documents show that Epstein actually paid for her dental school.
Wow.
She was significantly younger than him, obviously. She was in his orbit for a long, long time. But she wasn't just another girl in the circle. She wasn't just a guest. The evidence shows she was. She was being elevated.
And we know she was elevated because of the money. I actually want to read from the document here, because the date is what makes my blood run cold. This trust, it's called the 1953 Trust, was signed on August 8th, 2019.
August 8th.
Yeah. Remind everyone what happened on August 10th, 2019.
Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell.
2 days. 2 days. 2 days before he is found dead, he signs a document that fundamentally rewires the destination of his entire fortune.
And that timing is it's beyond critical. I mean, think about it. If you are genuinely planning to commit suicide, do you spend your last hours restructuring your complex international trusts?
It seems unlikely.
Maybe. I mean, it's possible. You could call it cleaning house. But on the other hand, if you are planning to break out, or if you think you're going to be moved, or you think you're going to be around for a while, you also secure your assets. You make sure the right person is in charge.
And this trust, it wasn't just a small update, right?
No, it completely replaced an earlier one from January of 2019. Something happened between January and August that made him tear up the old plan. He either panicked or he planned. And in that new plan, he named Karina Shuliak as the primary beneficiary.
And we are not talking about, here's a nice condo and a car to remember me by. I mean, read off the list. What did he try to leave his dentist?
It's a kingdom. It's a literal empire. The trust allocates $50 million in liquid cash to her. Immediate transfer.
$50 million cash.
Then another $50 million structured as an annuity. So that's $100 million right off the bat.
Yeah.
But the real wealth, the operational wealth, is in the real estate.
The property.
The trust specifically names the properties. Little St. James, the infamous island.
Pedophile island.
Right. Then Great St. James, the other island he's building out, the one that was even more secluded. Then you've got the apartment in Paris on Avenue Foch, one of the most expensive streets in the world. The massive mansion in Palm Beach, and the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico.
The Zorro Ranch. Wait, that's the one with all the weird stories, right? The plans for that huge underground facility, the massive concrete pour.
Correct. The one that, when you look at the blueprints, looks a lot more like a secure bunker or a command center than a rustic ranch.
Yeah.
He left it all to her, the entire infrastructure of his operation.
Which brings us to the big question. Why? I mean, seriously, why her? If Ghislaine Maxwell was his partner in crime for decades, if he had all these powerful friends, why leave the keys to the entire kingdom to a dentist from Belarus?
Well, there's a little piece of evidence, a clue, in the margin of the trust document that might explain it. Or at least, it might explain how he was manipulating her. Did you see the note?
I did. It gave me chills. It's handwritten, just scribbled on the side. It's right next to a line item for a 33-carat diamond ring.
A 33-carat diamond.
And the note says, given to Karina Shuliak in contemplation of marriage.
In contemplation of marriage. Now, that is a legal term. It has significance in property disputes, but it's also a deeply, deeply personal phrase. He is sitting in a federal lockup, facing sex trafficking charges that could put him away for the rest of his life, and he's scribbling notes about marrying this woman.
It's either completely delusional or it's incredibly strategic.
That is the question, isn't it? Was he genuinely in love, this obsessed old man? Or was she the perfect patsy, an outsider with no deep connections who could hold the assets? Or, and this is the darker theory, was she being groomed to run the operation?
To be the next Ghislaine.
Exactly. If he goes to jail forever, or if he disappears, someone needs to manage the blackmail files. Someone needs to manage the islands, the properties, the money flows. Was she the designated successor?
And she was the last person he spoke to, right? The phone logs confirm that.
That's correct. The logs from the MCC show a phone call the night before he died. It lasted for roughly 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And the call was to Karina Shiliak.
20 minutes. And because it wasn't a call to his lawyer?
It should have been recorded. That's standard procedure. Every non-legal call is recorded. But for some reason, this one wasn't. Or, the more likely story is that the recording is missing.
Of course it is. Of course it's missing. So, okay, let's just recap this. We have a 20-minute unrecorded call, a handwritten marriage proposal, $100 million in cash, a portfolio of strategic properties, all signed over to her, and then less than 48 hours later, he's dead.
And she's left holding the bag.
Did she ever get the money? Did she get any of it?
No. The legal system moved incredibly fast and froze everything almost immediately. The victim's lawyers, rightfully, descended on the estate. That 1953 trust was contested from every angle. And ultimately, the bulk of those assets were liquidated and put into the Epstein Victims Compensation Program.
So the victims got it?
Some of it.
Yeah.
I think after the lawyers took their massive cuts, there's about $130 million left for the actual survivors. So Shiliak never got the empire. The fact that he tried to give it to her tells us one very important thing.
What's that?
He thought the empire would survive him. He thought the game would continue.
It tells me he thought he had a future. You don't buy a 33-carat engagement ring if you think you're checking out for good on Saturday morning.
Precisely. It signals an intent to continue. Which, as you said, brings us to the bigger question. Continue what? Because if you think this whole saga was just about a rich guy who liked young girls, you are missing the entire point of the millions of pages we just got dropped on us.
This is where we have to pivot. We have to go deeper. Because the money, that $500 million fortune, the private islands, the 727, that didn't come from being a good day trader. You don't get that kind of get-out-of-jail-free card from just being a smart stock picker.
No, you get that kind of power, that kind of protection from being useful.
Yeah.
Extremely useful to the people who print the money and run the governments.
And that takes us to Section 2, the intelligence angle. And look, we have to give credit where credit is due here. Whitney Webb.
Absolutely, 100%.
For years, Whitney Webb has been shouting from the rooftops, writing 1,000-page books, doing the deep dive research that the entire mainstream media refused to touch. Her central thesis was always, this is an intelligence operation. And people call her a conspiracy theorist.
They dismissed her, laughed at her.
Well, guess what? The 2026 files are her complete and total vindication.
They prove she was not only right, but she may have been understating the case. The core argument that Webb has made for so long, and which these new files just overwhelmingly support, is that the sex ring narrative is actually a cover story.
It's the perfect distraction.
The perfect distraction. The media focuses on the salacious details, the sex crimes, the perversion, because it keeps everyone's eyes away from the financial crimes, and, more importantly, the espionage crimes.
It's the classic magician's trick. Look at the flashy, scandalous stuff in this hand so you don't see what the other hand is doing.
He wasn't just a pervert. That was a tool of his trade. He was a spy.
Or a node, as you said before.
He was a node. He was a crucial part of a symbiosis between organized crime, specifically the shadowy mega group of financial donors, and powerful intelligence agencies. We're talking about factions of Mossad, and we're talking about factions of U.S. intelligence like the CIA and the FBI. It was a public-private partnership from hell.
Webb breaks this down into a structure she calls the honey trap. And it's not just one thing, it's tiered, which is fascinating. Can you break down the difference between Tier 1 and Tier 2 for us? Because this really explains why so many different types of women were in his orbit.
Right. Tier 1 is the horrific stuff that we all hear about on the news. It's the exploitation of minors. It's vulnerable girls, often from broken homes or foster care, who are brought in, abused, and then used as bait for the powerful men. That is the product he was offering.
That's the hook. That's the blackmail.
That is the black and white, undeniable blackmail. But Tier 2 is different. It's more subtle and in some ways more insidious. Tier 2 involves women who were older, often educated, very sophisticated. These women were cultivated, they were groomed, not to be victims in the traditional sense, but to be assets, to be operatives.
And the goal for them wasn't a one-night blackmail opportunity. It was something more long-term.
The goal was marriage, placement. The files strongly suggest that these Tier 2 women were introduced to high-value targets. Billionaires, politicians, top scientists with the goal of becoming their girlfriends, their confidants, or their wives.
So they get inside the target's life.
Exactly. And once they're inside, they act as informants. They gather pillow talk. They can influence business decisions, political stances. They become a listening post inside the highest echelons of power.
And there is a massive, massive name that comes up in this specific context, a name that is going to make a lot of people very angry, but it is in the analysis, and we have to report it.
Melania Trump.
Melania Trump.
The sources and the timelines that are being pieced together from these files suggest that Melania was introduced to Donald Trump allegedly via the Maxwell and Epstein connection in New York. The implication isn't that she was a victim of abuse in the Tier 1 sense,
No.
but that she was a placement, a potential handler. Someone put there to be in the orbit of a man who was becoming increasingly powerful and, let's face it, unpredictable in New York real estate and later politics.
It just changes the entire lens through which you view that relationship. It's not just a love story. It's potentially an operation. And speaking of operations, we absolutely have to talk about the tech world. Because Bill Gates, oh man, the carefully crafted image of the nice grandfather of philanthropy just got nuked from orbit.
Completely and utterly dismantled. For more than a decade, the official story, the one his PR team has pushed relentlessly, was Bill Gates met Jeffrey Epstein in 2011. It was about raising money for global health. He didn't know about the crimes. He regrets it deeply.
And these files show that is a flat-out, demonstrable lie.
A verifiable lie. The connections go all the way back to the 90s. And the bridge to Gates wasn't even Epstein initially. It was the Maxwell sisters.
Ghislaine sisters, Isabel and Christine.
Right. Their father, Robert Maxwell, was a notorious super spy, a triple agent from Mossad, MI6, the KGB. After he fell off his yacht, his daughters picked up the family business of intelligence and influence. And Isabel Maxwell was deeply involved with a company called ComTouch.
Okay, explain ComTouch. Because this sounds like some boring 90s tech stuff, but you're saying this is a smoking gun.
It is a huge smoking gun. ComTouch was an Israeli tech company with incredibly deep, documented ties to Israeli intelligence. In the tech world at the time, it was known as a bit of a loser. I mean, he was hemorrhaging cash. It was not the next Google or Microsoft. Yet, for some reason, Microsoft, Bill Gates' Microsoft, poured money into it. They kept it afloat with investment after investment.
Which makes no sense. Why would one of the smartest businessmen in the world keep throwing money at a failing company?
He wouldn't. Not for business reasons. You do that if the investment isn't about return on investment. You do it if it's a payoff. Or if it's a way to fund an off-the-books intelligence operation. It's a perfect way to move money from U.S. tech to foreign intel without raising any red flags on a balance sheet. Well, it's just a strategic investment.
And then we get the Russia trip. This one is just wild to me. We've got Epstein traveling with Nathan Myhrvold,
who was the chief technology officer of Microsoft.
The CTO of Microsoft, and a money manager take a trip to Russia in, roughly 1998. And where do they go? They're not going to the Bolshoi Ballet.
No, they're at a nuclear facility. We have photos from these files of Epstein and Myhrvold touring a Russian nuclear center. I mean, what on earth is a New York property developer doing there? What is the CTO of Microsoft doing there? It screams technology transfer. It screams espionage.
But the Gates connection gets so much darker, so much more personal, and this is the part that just feels like it's out of a mob movie. There's an email. I want you to walk us through this, because when I first read it, I had to read it 2 or 3 times to believe it. Epstein was actively blackmailing Bill Gates.
Explicitly. There is no other way to read it. The email we found is from Epstein to Gates. And in it, Epstein makes it crystal clear that he knows intimate, private medical details about Bill Gates. Specifically, he references an STD that Gates had apparently contracted.
And he doesn't just say, I know your secret. He offers a solution.
This is the part that, this is still the real part that just makes your skin crawl. Epstein offers to provide antibiotics to Gates, but he then offers to help him administer those antibiotics to his wife, Melinda, surreptitiously.
Surreptitiously, secretly. He is telling Bill Gates in writing, I can help you drug your wife so that she doesn't find out that you cheated on her and got a disease.
Think about the leverage that creates. It's absolute. If Epstein helps Gates do that, he owns him for life. If Melinda ever finds out what they did, it's the end of the marriage, which we know eventually happened anyway. But it's also the end of the Gates Foundation's pristine reputation. It's the end of his global moral standing. Epstein wasn't asking for a charitable donation. He was holding a grenade and showing Bill Gates the pin.
It's, I own your secrets. I own your biology. I own your marriage. That explains the millions of dollars that flowed from Gates to Epstein. That explains all the meetings he supposedly regretted. It wasn't friendship, it was a hostage situation.
Exactly. And if he could do that to the richest man in America, just imagine what he was trying to do to world leaders. Which brings us, of course, to the Putin files.
Vladimir Putin. Over 1,000 pages in this dump name him.
And it's not a passing mention. It's not like his name just appears on a guest list. We see a concerted, multi-year effort by Epstein to get access to Putin. In 2010, he emails a contact asking about getting a Russian visa. And he says, quote, I have a friend of Putin's. Should I ask him? In 2011, there are email chains discussing setting up a meeting.
And then 2014, it almost happens.
2014, yeah. This involves Joy Ito, the venture capitalist from MIT. There are emails discussing a specific meeting that was scheduled between Epstein, Ito, and Vladimir Putin, but it got canceled at the last minute.
Why was it canceled?
The Malaysia Airlines crash, MH17 being shot down over Ukraine. The geopolitical chaos from that event completely disrupted the schedule. But the intent was clearly there. And the scariest part, Epstein claimed in these files that he could provide the Kremlin with compromising intelligence on Donald Trump ahead of their 2018 summit in Helsinki.
So he's playing every side. He is blackmailing Bill Gates. He is allegedly placing assets around Donald Trump. He's trying to sell intel on Trump to Vladimir Putin.
He was a broker of secrets, of money, of people. And in that world, information isn't just power, it's the ultimate currency. But, we get caught up in the spycraft, we get caught up in the billionaires and the global intrigue, and we cannot forget the cost, the actual human cost of creating that currency.
Yeah, you're right. We talk about assets and leverage and intel, but every single one of those pieces of leverage was created by destroying a human being.
And this next section, this is the hardest part of the files to get through.
This is section 3, and I need everyone listening to me right now to take this seriously. This is a severe content warning. We are about to discuss the testimony of a survivor named William Sasha Riley. This involves graphic descriptions of torture, sexual assault, and murder. If you are a survivor yourself, or if you just cannot handle that level of pure darkness today, please skip forward about 15 minutes. We will not be offended. Seriously. This testimony, it is the darkest thing I have ever read in my life.
It is the unvarnished reality of what happened at places like the farm. It strips away all the glamour of the private jets and the fancy parties, and it shows you the slaughterhouse that was operating underneath it all.
Tell us about William Sasha Riley, because his story starts with the most sickening betrayal imaginable.
William Sasha Riley, who was born Manuel Sasha Barrers, he wasn't a runaway. He wasn't kidnapped off the street by a stranger. He was trafficked into this world by his own adoptive father.
His father.
A man named William Kyle Riley, who was a pilot. He flew the planes. He was one of the pilots who transported the victims and the powerful guests to these locations. And he brought his own son into the nightmare.
My God.
Riley describes these parties they held. These weren't just, mixers with champagne. They had themed rooms. They had high-stakes gambling.
But they weren't betting on card games or horse races.
No, they were betting on human beings. Riley describes fighting rings where these rich, powerful men would sit around and bet on children fighting other children, or, even worse, children being forced to fight adults. It was gladiatorial.
And as the night went on, the light stuff, if you can even call it that, ended.
Right. The casual drug use shifted to heavy narcotics. The tourists, the outer circle, would leave, and the inner circle would remain. And the acts became purely sadistic. And this is where Riley starts naming names. He doesn't just say politicians were there. He specifically names Donald Trump. He names Andy Biggs. He names Jim Jordan.
The allegations in this testimony against Donald Trump, they go so far beyond anything we've even heard in the darkest corner of the internet. There's an incident he describes involving a litter of puppies. I'm struggling to even say this one out loud.
It's just horrific. Riley testifies under oath that he witnessed Donald Trump kill a litter of puppies in front of him, one by one.
But why? What is the psychological reason for doing something that monstrous?
It wasn't about pleasure, not in the way you'd think. It was a test. It was psychological conditioning. It was a demonstration of absolute power. If I can do this to these innocent animals right in front of you, what do you think I can do to you? And if you scream, if you cry, what happens to you next? It's about breaking the human spirit, establishing total, terrifying domination.
And from there, it escalated to people. He talks about the Patricia incident.
Yes. Riley describes being in a room with another victim, a young girl named Patricia. They were ordered to perform sexual acts for the men watching. And suddenly, other men burst into the room. They assaulted her. And then, according to Riley's testimony, they shot her. They murdered her in the bed while he was right there.
And he claims Trump came into the room right after this happened.
That is his allegation.
Yes.
That he entered the room as part of the immediate aftermath of the cleanup.
And then there is the retaliation. This is the part that has been whispered about online for years, but Riley's testimony provides the alleged context, the tent peg incident.
This is extremely graphic, but it's crucial because it potentially explains a physical reality that has been the subject of rumor for a long time. Riley claims that during an assault where Trump was the aggressor, Riley fought back. He was a child, but he was desperate, fighting for his life. He grabbed a 10-peg, a metal stake from the room, and he had a condom, which he put on it for some reason. Maybe he was just there. And he used it to sodomize Trump.
He assaulted his abuser in self-defense.
He ripped him open. Riley is very specific in his testimony about the damage he caused. He claims he caused severe internal trauma to Trump's rectum and intestines.
And this connects directly to the diaper rumors we've heard for years.
Exactly. For years, people have joked or speculated about Trump's alleged incontinence, the rumors from the set of The Apprentice. Riley's testimony claims that this specific injury is the cause. He alleges the damage was so severe that Trump had to be secretly airlifted out of the location for emergency surgery.
That is, if that's true, it explains so much. But Riley didn't get away with it. There was a price to pay.
A terrible price. You don't injure a man like that in that world and just walk away. Riley describes being systematically tortured by the other men at the party to pay the debt for what he did to Trump. He specifically names Congressman Andy Biggs. He says Biggs beat him until his ribs broke. He describes going into blue convulsions from the pain and the trauma.
He also names Congressman Jim Jordan.
Yes. He alleges that Jim Jordan, the former wrestling coach, wrestled and assaulted him. He says this happened when he was 12 years old in front of a crowd of 25 to 50 people who were watching it like a spectator sport.
It's just sickening. It's absolutely sickening. But we have to be careful here, too, because he does mention other famous names, Lindsey Graham, Clarence Thomas. But the nature of the testimony is different for them, isn't it?
This is a really important distinction, and it goes to our mission of being objective and just reporting what's in the files. Riley places Lindsey Graham and Clarence Thomas at these parties. He says he saw them there. He describes Graham's mannerisms in detail. He notes that Clarence Thomas stood out visually because he was the only black man in that specific inner circle he saw. But he does not explicitly testify to witnessing them commit sexual assault or murder in the same direct way he describes Trump, Biggs, or Jordan. He places them at the scene of the crime. They were present. They were watching, which, in the eyes of the law and basic human morality, makes them complicit. But Riley is very precise about who did what to him.
That precision actually makes him more credible to me. If he were just making it all up to take down a bunch of Republicans, they all did everything horrible, but he distinguishes between who was a participant and who was an observer.
Exactly. And the fact that these men, a sitting Supreme Court justice, a senior senator, were allegedly in a room where children are being abused and murdered, that is the leverage. That's the ultimate blackmail. That is why they never speak out. That is why the legislation gets blocked. They are owned.
And for the victims trapped in this hell, the only way out was often death. Riley talks about a girl named Samantha.
It's a heartbreaking story. Another girl, Sarah, couldn't take it anymore and wanted out. She wanted to commit suicide but couldn't do it herself. So Samantha helped her. She shot Sarah. It was an assisted suicide. And then later, Samantha herself was tortured so badly that she begged Riley to kill her just to make the suffering end.
And the snuff films. He confirms they were real.
Yes. Filmed murders. He said they were done at locations that were distinct from the parties, so the guests wouldn't necessarily see the final act. But the cameras were always rolling.
Mark, I need a second. Just hearing all this laid out, it makes you realize that Epstein isn't a person. It's a machine. It's a meat grinder.
It is. And that machine protects its own. Or, when necessary, it extracts its own. Which leads us to the mystery that has been haunting this entire case since August of 2019.
Section 4. The body swap.
This is where the story turns from a horrific crime story into a full-blown techno-thriller. But again, the new files provide actual evidence.
We all remember the day he died. Epstein didn't kill himself. It became a global meme. It was on t-shirts, on beer cans. But most people assumed that meant he was murdered in his cell. These files suggest something else entirely might have happened.
To understand it, we have to go back to the 4chan whistleblower.
Okay, set the scene for us. It's August 10th, 2019.
It's the very early morning, before the news breaks on CNN, before Fox News reports it, before the world knows Jeffrey Epstein is dead. A post appears on 4chan.
4chan, the cesspool of the internet. But sometimes real leaks do happen there.
The user was anonymous, of course, but he posted incredibly specific details about the Metropolitan Correctional Center. He said Epstein was moved in a wheelchair for a supposed medical check at 04:15 a.m. Then, he says, a trip van arrived at the facility.
A trip van.
Right. But here is the critical detail. The van did not sign in, the security logs were bypassed, it didn't record license plates, and the poster mentioned one very, very specific visual detail. He said there was a man in the back of the van wearing a green dress military outfit.
A green dress military outfit? That is such a weirdly specific detail. If you're just making up a story, you say men in black suits or guys in SWAT gear. You don't say green dress military outfit.
Unless you actually saw it. It's such a specific visual data point that it suggests maybe a foreign military uniform or some kind of specific disguise. At the time, everyone dismissed it. Oh, it's just a troll making stuff up. But the new files contain subpoenas from the Southern District of New York to Citibank. And they were able to identify the poster.
They found out who it was.
It wasn't a troll in a basement. The poster was a man named Roberto Grijalva, an actual on-duty corrections officer at the MCC that night.
Holy
Yeah.
So we have a verified Garf posting in real time from inside the prison saying he saw a suspicious van and a weirdly dressed man.
And he posted a direct quote. He wrote, I think they switched him out.
I think they switched him out. Okay, let's look at the other evidence for a switch. The crime scene itself.
It was a disaster. The reports describe it as shoddy work. No photos of the body were initially taken in the cell. The noose he supposedly used was moved. The meds on his table were moved. The crime scene was contaminated almost immediately.
And the identification of the body. In a case this big, you'd think they'd be careful.
This is the real kicker. In a case of this magnitude, you would expect immediate DNA verification against a database. You would expect fingerprint confirmation. The official record states that the body was visually identified by his brother, Mark Epstein.
His brother, the guy who might have been his accomplice.
Yeah.
That's the person we trust for the official ID.
That is the official chain of custody for the identification. So you combine it all. You have the Shuliak Trust moving the entire force in 48 hours before. You have the deep intelligence connections to Mossad and the CIA agencies that specialize in exactly this kind of exfiltration. You have a verified guard on the inside saying a van bypassed security. You have a green dress man. And you have no independent biometric identification of the corpse.
Is he alive? Is it possible?
I would put the probability 50-50. And here's why. If he was an asset who simply knew too much, sure, they could kill him to silence him. That's the simple answer. But if he was the asset who managed the files, he is worth infinitely more alive. If he has a dead man switch set to release everything upon his death, killing him is the one thing you can't do. Extracting him keeps the files and the secrets secure.
So he could be sitting on a beach in Tel Aviv right now. He could be in a deep underground military base in Nevada.
Or getting extensive plastic surgery in Brazil. We just don't know. But the official suicide narrative is dead. And even the murder narrative might just be a cover for the extraction reality.
God, that is terrifying. If he's out there somewhere, maybe watching this.
He's probably laughing. Because for the most part, the cover-up is still working.
And that's the perfect segue to Section 5, the missing files. Because even with this 3.5 million page dump, we are clearly missing the biggest smoking guns. The DOJ is still holding back.
They absolutely are. And one of the biggest, most obvious holes in the data dump concerns the Trump modeling agency.
We found a summary in the files, right? A tip that was called into the FBI on July 2nd, 2020. Tell us about this woman who called.
A woman called the FBI tip line. She laid out in detail how her friend was recruited by Trump's modeling agency back in the day. And she described these casting parties.
Casting parties. We all know what that's code for in places like Hollywood, but this sounds like it was weaponized.
She says Trump specifically requested blondes. Her friend went to these parties. They were then taken on yacht trips. On the yacht, she was drugged. And eventually, after being used, she was just dumped in front of a hospital, left on the sidewalk, overdosed and traumatized.
Just treated like human garbage.
Right. And here's the thing. The tip summary exists in the file. We can read the intake form. But the FBI 302, that's a formal report where agents would have interviewed the victim, maybe investigated the yacht, checked the hospital records. That crucial document is missing.
It's just gone.
It's not in the dump. And at the same time, you have Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, standing up at a press conference saying, "This is it, folks. Full transparency." But in the very nice breath, he admits that millions of pages are still being withheld due to ongoing investigations.
You can't have it both ways. You can't stand there and say, case closed, there's no client list, and also say, we can't show you these other files because we're still investigating them.
It's a contradiction.
It proves that this is selective transparency. They released the haystack to hide the needles that are still locked in the vault.
And speaking of the client list, we really need to do a quick reality check for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Because I see the tweets, I see the headlines. Jay-Z is on the list, Beyonce is on the list, Pusha T is on the list.
We have to be really responsible here. The files contain thousands of intake forms from the FBI tip line. That means if any random person, anywhere in the world, calls the FBI and says, hey, I had a dream that Jay-Z was on Epstein's island, the FBI agent has to write that down. That document is now officially in the file. So just because a celebrity's name is typed on a piece of paper, it does not mean they were on a plane or on an island.
Exactly. There is a massive fundamental difference between the flight logs, which are mechanical records of travel, and random tip line chatter. The testimony of William Sasha Riley regarding the politicians, that is direct, first-hand eyewitness testimony of specific crimes. The mention of Jay-Z in a tip line dump, that is unverified noise until it is proven otherwise. We have to separate the signal from the static.
That's a crucial distinction. Don't let them distract you with celebrity gossip. Focus on the eyewitnesses. But there is one thing that isn't gossip. The photos of the houses. The actual crime scenes. Marcus Rogers, one of our researchers, went through the entire image cache from the properties.
And he described the feeling he got from it as demonic.
Looking at them, I completely agree. It's not just rich guy with bad taste. It's something else.
It's statues of gargoyles all over the place.
Yeah.
It's weird occult symbolism. It's that bizarre temple on the island with the gold dome. The decor itself reflects a worldview. These houses weren't just homes. They were stage sets designed for these atrocities. They were designed to intimidate, to disorient, to make the victims feel like they had entered a different reality where the normal rules of society didn't apply.
Which brings us to the final piece of this puzzle. The mind of the man who built this twisted world. Section 6. Inside the mind of the monster.
We found transcripts of interviews with Epstein. Just him talking.
Yeah.
And it's just bizarre.
He sounds almost boring, but also terrifyingly arrogant at the same time.
He tries so hard to sound like a genius.
Right.
He talks about finance, and then he'll pivot to quantum physics, and then to the nature of the human soul. He describes the soul as the dark matter of the brain.
I remember that line. We know it's there, but we can't measure it. It's such a pretentious, empty statement.
He dismisses Isaac Newton. He dismisses mathematics. He says science can't explain miracles or life. He's trying to position himself as this mystic philosopher king.
And in the middle of all that, he casually admits to being a criminal.
He does. He admits to being a Tier 1 criminal, which, in his twisted dictionary, meant the lowest, most acceptable level of crime. He justifies taking dirty money from bad people. He literally says, I take money from bad people, and I use it for philanthropy. I fund science. I fund vaccines.
The classic Robin Hood complex. I do bad things for good reasons.
Exactly. He viewed himself as a necessary evil, a filter that could turn the dirty money of criminals and despots into progress for humanity.
There's that one moment in the interview that stands out. The interviewer says to him something like, you have all the attributes, the devil is brilliant, and Epstein replies,
He replies, the devil scares me.
the devil scares me.
It's pure pathological cognitive dissonance. Here's a man who allegedly oversaw the torture and murder of children who was present for the puppy incident. Yet he wants to play the part of the deep-thinking philosopher who is scared of the abstract concept of the devil.
It's a mask. It has to be.
It's the ultimate compartmentalization. He didn't see himself as a monster. He saw himself as a higher form of life operating on a different plane. He genuinely believed he was above the simple morality that governs you and me, and that belief is what allowed him to do everything we've just discussed.
So what does this all mean? Let's just try to bring it all together. We have Karina Shuliak, the dentist who almost inherited the entire intelligence operation. We have the deep connections, Microsoft, Israel, Russia, proving this was a global spy ring. We have the horrific testimony of William Sasha Riley implicating a former president and sitting members of Congress in torture and murder. We have a credible witness from inside the prison saying Epstein was switched out, not killed. And we have a government that is still, to this day, hiding the most crucial documents.
It means the story isn't over, not by a long shot. The release of these files in 2026 isn't the end of the book. It's just the start of a new, much darker chapter. The so-called transparency was forced, and it's deliberately incomplete. But the cracks in the wall are finally big enough now. We can see the machinery working on the inside.
And that machinery is ugly. It's built to grind up people, to feed power.
It is. But seeing it, really seeing it, looking at the files, reading the names, saying them out loud, that is the first step to dismantling it. We can't fix what we collectively refuse to look at.
That's real. And that is exactly why we do this.
That's why we're here.
All right, that's going to do it for today's deep dive on Spill the Real right here on SugarWaterRadio.com. If this conversation shook you, if it made you uncomfortable, if it made you think, that means it was necessary. Make sure you follow, subscribe, and share this episode everywhere you can, because independent truth only survives when the people protect it. Again, if you want to support the movement and help keep the lights on, Cash App Sugarwater Radio. We appreciate every single one of you. Much love to the SWR team, the Sugarwater family, and everybody who continues to tap in episode after episode. And don't forget, join the Hip Hop HUD Network. This is how we build power, ownership, and real platforms moving forward. This is Dana Lucen.
And Mark Miller.
Reminding you, don't just hear the truth, sit with it. Until next time, stay sharp, stay real, and keep your eyes open. We're out.